There was a big upset today. Number 2 Stanford women's basketball lost to unranked Washington 72-67. I will say this, they were outscored 11-6 in the last 5 minutes and 5 minutes and 2 seconds. And granted, I know they did the foul game with 22 seconds, started with 22 seconds left. And of course, Washington made 1 out of 2. Stanford called timeout to advance the ball. They tried a 3, they missed it. Washington got the rebound. Stanford got the foul. They made both their free throws. They tried to go for a quick 3 again. Washington got the defensive rebound. Foul on Stanford. So then Washington made both their free throws, but with 2 seconds left, Stanford made a layup. Yeah. Stanford had 34 points in the first half, 17 in the first quarter, 17 in the fourth quarter. Washington only had 8 in the first quarter, but they scored 30 in the second quarter. That's pitiful. That's really, really pitiful for a team that I thought that was going to be a 1 seed. Stanford in the third quarter scored 20 points. Fourth quarter, 13 points. Washington, 15 points in the third. 19 points in the fourth. So, Stanford for the game shot better than Washington. 24 for 50 for Stanford. 7 for 16 on threes. 43.8%. 12 for 13 on free throws. 92.3%. But they only had 24 rebounds. And 2 of those offensive. 16 assists. 3 steals, 3 blocks, 16 turnovers. So, points off turnovers can be a factor. 18 fouls, and they did have 23 points off the bench, but Washington had 25 points off the bench. They didn't shoot terrible, but not as good as Stanford. 43.1%, 25 for 58 overall. 6 for 20 on threes, which, that's 30%. 16 for 21 on free throws, 76.2%. They did have 34 rebounds, 11 of those offensive, 18 assists, 8 steals, that's a big number, 1 block, that's not that much, 11 turnovers, 13 fouls. So, what does Stanford have going on for them the remainder of the year? It's only because they don't have any March games. Probably the same thing goes for the whole Pac-12 here. And it does impact the standings, by the way. Stanford has to go on the road to number 22 Arizona. They have to go on the road to 7-14 Arizona State. That should be a win. They have to play at home against USC. That's 17-6. Now, it's not necessarily an easy game. At home against UCLA, that's 18-6. On the road to Colorado, that's 18-5. That's a good team. That's an NCAA tournament team. Then on the road to number 2 Utah. And I'll explain the standings as soon as I get through the Washington remainder of the season schedule. They get to go on the road now to play number 7 Utah. That's tough. On the road to Colorado, that's 18-5. That's tough. At home against Oregon State, that's 11-12. You should not lose that game in theory. You shouldn't. You get to host Oregon, that's 14-9. That's not necessarily an easy game. On the road to USC, that's 17-6. That's not an easy game. Then you have to play UCLA, number 14 at that, 18-6 overall. So only really one gimme game. That's it. Now, it does impact the standings here. Because Stanford and Utah are now tied at 10-2 in their conference. And both those two teams will play each other one more time. So if Utah wins out, or Stanford wins out, they win the conference. Colorado is 9-3 in the conference. Arizona is 8-4 in the conference. UCLA is 7-5. USC 7-5. Washington State 6-6. Oregon 5-7. Washington 5-7. Oregon State 3-9. Cal 2-10. And Arizona winless 0-12. So that's the update on that, and it does impact the standings. As you can tell, and we'll have to wait and see what really happens. Anyways, if you like this content, hit like and subscribe. I see you guys later. It's Confiding Scribes. We're on the road to it. Let's go.